real special to play in that. Obviously, original six, it's got a lot of history to it. Great opportunity for us. So we know it'll be a real test. We have to be prepared.
Can the Maple Leafs find a way to exercise their demons against the Boston Bruins in round number 1? Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Leafs. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writers Lance Hornby and Terry Koshan. It is the playoff preview edition as the Maple Leafs, for the first time since the 2018-19 season, will take on the Bruins in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And guys, as you know, it was a tough year against Boston for the Leafs, to say the least. They went 4-0, did the Bruins against Toronto, and we'll get Lance and Terry's predictions for the series coming up. But we got to begin with what the Leafs need to do to make it out of the first round for the second time in 2 years. And Terry, we'll start with you. What do you think are the biggest keys for Sheldon Keefe's team against the Bruins?
Well, certainly tightening up and playing better team defense than they have in the last little while. Understanding, guys, that game one of the playoffs is a clean slate and everything. There's still too many blips, I think, in the Leafs game. A couple of weeks ago, what are their players all saying about the last stretch? You want to, you get the details in order and everything like that. And the Leafs really didn't do that. And, now, remembering too that they didn't have a full lineup by any means, certainly not last night. I think we saw 3 defensemen, for example, who probably won't be in the lineup for game 1. So a few moving parts in that regard. But the fact of the matter is they're going to have to be close to perfect that way, because the Bruins do play such a tight hockey game, and they're one of the best defensive teams in the league. So it'll take all 5 players on the ice, as we know. And to me, that's going to be one of the keys. If they can do that, they'll put themselves in good stead. But like I say, it's going to take everyone to be in that mindset from the opening face-off on Saturday night.
Terry brings up some good points. Certainly, the old bugaboos are coming back, though, to kind of haunt the Leafs in this series. Certainly, playing in Boston does them no favors. If it was Florida, you would get some Leaf sort of vibe there. You're not going to get that, obviously, in one of the more hostile places. Toronto is one, and of course, there's the ghosts of 2013 and everything else in the 3-7 game series that they've lost there. Obviously, special teams is going to be huge. Neither club coming in really looks that great, but you've got Jeremy Swayman, who I assume is going to start for Boston, 4-0 against the Leafs this year, and just a bit of doubt creeping into Leaf goaltending, even though I think Samsonov has proven himself worthy of the start. That's going to be a huge thing, of course, whether or not these Toronto scorers who haven't been lighting up, certainly a guy like William Nylander has to get through there as well. Dealing with the Brad Marchand question too, such a distraction. He's the master of playoff skullduggery, and again, getting really just exercising some of those ghosts, I think, is going to be the key for the Maple Leafs. But as Terry knows, and as Rob knows, they've played better on the road. So who knows what Leaf team's going to show up in game 1.
Yeah, that is a good point. They have been very good away from Scotiabank Arena this season. Now, there's a lot of star power on both sides that should play a major role in this matchup. But Lance, is there an X-Factor player for the Leafs that you think could make a huge difference?
Traditionally, it always seems to be a Leaf that will come up and surprise a little bit. Of course, everybody's eyes are on the core 4, but I'd be interested in a guy like David Kampf. I mean, here's you got a Boston team that's with Bergeron and Krejci, who's not as good in the faceoffs as they were before. Not that Matthews and Tavares aren't, but they really rely on Kampf to score to win some big draws, and he's gotten more creative offensively. I think big body can drive to the net. I like his offensive game, if not paying off in points the last little while. And I'll squeeze one more in there, whether Calle Yarncroc comes back. He's a perfect Leaf for this series, but he has to come back at some point in the series.
For me, the X factor is Ilya Samsonov. There's no doubt. If he plays like he has in the second half, the Leafs have an excellent chance of winning this series. If he doesn't, they won't win. I think I'm not pinning their series hopes on one person or on one position, but Jeremy Swayman, Linus Ullmark, we know what they're capable of. Samsonov has to match them or be better through the whole series, and assuming that he makes it through the whole series. The one interesting thing I find about this goaltending now with the Leafs is, Joseph Wall has not come back and given them confidence building net minding since returning from the high ankle sprain. So whether that's an automatic switch for Sheldon Keefe if things don't go well for Samsonov right off the hop, we'll have to see. But for me, that has to be Samsonov. And again, I'm not placing it all on one person. But if he's not close to what he has been from the end of January to a week or so ago, then we're going to be talking about the Leafs' demise here in a couple of weeks, I think.
All right, it is prediction time, and as we mentioned, the Bruins 4-0 against the Leafs earlier this year. Terry, you get the first crack. How do you see this playing out?
I'll go with Bruins in 7. I think they're the favorite going in. Obviously, the Leafs are the underdog here. Just the way that they play the game, they're, as Lance kind of knows, they're not as strong up the middle now. But the fact of the matter is, they still did get through the losses of Bergeron and Krejci, and wind up almost top of the Atlantic Division. I just they're a better defense core. As good as Samsonov has been, they're better in net. But if the Leafs, if Matthews, Marner, and Nylander can get this together, obviously it gives them a much better opportunity here. But the Bruins are the better team going in. They're better defensively, and the one guy that we haven't kind of mentioned to a degree here is David Pastrnak, and we know that in the past the Leafs have had next to no answer for him, and he's going to be a big factor in the series one way or the other. But I'm going to go with Bruins in 7, and I think that as good as the Leafs have been on the road, been great, that home ice advantage could end up being the tip in the scales in the Bruins' favor in the end.
I think the easy part is predicting it's going 7 games. That's almost a lock based on history and what the Leafs have done, forcing things to a deciding game, but not being able to take it over that hump. I'm actually going to take the Leafs in this one. I like the snarl they have on defense. This is a different team that may be more built to get in the Bruins' faces. There's no Chara over there anymore. I really like McCabe, Edmondson, Benoit. I think that's what the Leafs have been lacking. If they can get more of a wall around Samsonov and Joseph Wall for pardon the pun, that's going to be the key. And they have some aggressive forwards. Who thought Ryan Reeves may factor in there? He may be an answer as far as getting the Bruins off balance. So I'm going to say Leafs in 7. Not necessarily building off all this negative talk. Naturally, losing the last 4 has hurt them, but I think they brush that off and give Boston at least a scare going into this series.
Yeah, well, never a dull moment when these two teams square off, whether it's the regular season or the playoffs. It all gets started on Saturday from Beantown. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Lance Hornby and Terry Koshan, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.